Hey all, so welcome back to a new video in which I have officially reached a new peak. I reached this peak yesterday, and I have two games to show you. First of all, this game where I first reached 2183, and then this game I played today where I got back up to 2180 after a loss earlier in the day. Now, let's get into it. Now, I started off with the move d4. My opponent decides to go d5, which is a move, and I play this move bishop f4. Knight f6, e3, c5. This is a line. dc is a move here, but it's not a move that I like playing, if I can play moves. It's not a move I really like playing because I just don't like giving him the whole center. Like, after e6, he can do some stuff, like knight c6 is the best move, preventing b4, and then he's going to play e5. e5, I can draw arrows, and my position, it's okay, but I don't want to play this. So, after c5, I normally like to go c3, just continuing my pawn chain in a normal London fashion. Knight f6, knight c6, knight d2, bishop f5. This is a line. I go knight gf3. Obviously a very simple move. Developing my knight, all is good. I want to put my knight here. I want to put my queen maybe on this square or this square, and I want to put my bishop on g4 and put some pressure on that knight. That's kind of my game plan right now. e6. I play an inaccuracy here. I play knight e5. Not the best move. Basically, the idea is like, okay, I'm putting my knight into the center. What could be more natural than that? What I really should have done was I should have considered playing the move bishop b5 here and like continue with this type of plan. And like after queen b6, I would play this move queen a4. We put some pressure. Then knight e5, like a6. We got bishop c6. BC, and then like even DC5. Yeah, actually I know this line. The idea is that black can't take here because of this, and after like something takes on c5, I'm gonna stick mine into the center, pressure everything. That's the game plan there, and I probably should have gone for that. Instead, I decided to put my knight into the center. A very natural move. It's not that big of an inaccuracy. My opponent went bishop d6. Of course, he's targeting my knight. I don't really want... In this position, I could go for a line where I get this pawn to the center, but I don't know. In this game, I just didn't really want to. Like, I just didn't really want to. I should have gone bishop e5 and went with this plan again, but I didn't, and it happens sometimes, and I instead just played knight df3. Pretty natural as well, solidifying my knight in the center, but I'm already worse out of the opening, which is a little strange since I know this opening better than my opponent, but I mean, at least I assume I do. And yeah, it's just not a good position and I should be playing better. My opponent goes queen c7. I decide here to simply develop my bishop to d3, which is something I haven't been able to do since the knight was on d2. I thought it was a good idea. I could have considered this move knight c6, but I thought bishop f4 could be an issue here. I guess even knight takes a7, and then like, I don't know, what could be done here? I guess you have to recapture. I don't know. This position didn't really strike my fancy, like this. I don't know. Maybe I could have gone for it. I didn't. And it happens sometimes. I should have probably realized that the c5 pawn is much more important than the pawn in f4, but it's okay. I go bishop d3. My opponent decides to take on d3. Very reasonable move. Queen takes. My opponent drops back with a knight. And here I decide to do something a little interesting. First I take the knight. My opponent takes back the queen. Then I go bishop g3, which is my idea. I don't want to play the best move, which is bishop d6, because I thought this position was a little dry. I just didn't think that there were many winning chances here. And remember, I'm trying to get like a new peak. I didn't think that there were many new winning chances here. And like, let's say like short castles or something. Like, this is dry. This is very, very dry. Maybe my opponent will like lock it and make some huge mistake. But I mean, I don't see many chances for white here apart from like e4, and I don't really want to play this type of position, so I don't. Instead, bishop g3. My opponent decides here to take on g3, which is just obviously a bad move because it opens up my rook, and I already have a target on this pawn. My opponent goes h6, defending the pawn, and now I am better because I simply pick up the c5 pawn. and I realize this. Now I'm just up a pawn. I do give my opponent the whole center. E5 is a move. It's scary. It's scary. E4 is very scary. But like at the end of the day, queen e2 at the very least, and I'm completely okay. I can bring my knight around to defend my pawn. b4 is an option, and I'm completely okay. The computer's even saying the move e4, very nice move. After it takes, I'm actually able to take and go long castles with check, which is pretty cool. But either way, h6, dc. My opponent decides to go a5. Very reasonable move. He's trying to prevent the move b4 to hold on to my pawn. He spends like 6 seconds on this move. We obviously like had this plan in mind beforehand, and I'm already in a completely dominant position after the move e5. This move e4. This move would actually just completely win the game, because after here you don't take the queen. Don't take the queen. It's tempting. It's tempting, but after here you're just supposed to capture the pawn. You're just going to capture the pawn. You're doing better. Let's say he goes here, preventing rook d1. I mean, short castles at the very least. Actually, the computer's even giving a3, like preparing b4, and like there's no infiltration. Like all these squares are covered, and I'm all good. This square is technically not covered, but it would be a queen trade, and the queen trade would benefit the side who's up a pawn, and he wouldn't want that. But instead, I play the move a3, which I thought was natural. Simply put, I want to go b4. That's it. I want to go b4. Technically it doesn't work at the moment because, like, let's say he does nothing, like short castles is, I guess, nothing in this position. Like if I go b4 here, I just lose. Like here, my rook is pinned, but that's not my plan. My plan is to first castle and then I'm gonna go b4, which is my idea. Now queen e7, very nice move, targeting the pawn. I decided to go queen b4, queen b5, defending like this, targeting this pawn, keeping everything under wraps, and actually preparing the move b4 in a later variation. Castles. I go b4, solidifying my pawn. Now I'm concretely up a pawn. I'm like almost concretely up a pawn, and I'm almost just completely dominating the game. Rook a6. Fair. Okay, he's putting the rook there. He wants to double up. He wants to make some targets over here. Okay, very reasonable. I go short castles. The idea is I want to defend my rook. I want to bring my other rook over here, and my king shouldn't really be in the center in this position. It's not truly an endgame because there are still queens on the board. There's a lot of play left. It's more like between an endgame and a middle game at this point. My opponent goes rook a8, and I go this move a4. Simply put, after takes, which actually happens in the game, this pawn is now defended, and I'm simply better. That's a terrible move. AB is a really, really bad move. You should not play AB here. In fact, the computer gives g6 as an idea, which is kind of crazy. Like knight d4. I mean, like doing nothing with g6. Like, what even is this? I don't know. G6 seems really, really insane to me. But I mean, I'm not the computer. The computer is all-knowing, all-powerful, like omnipotent, stuff like that. So I don't really want to mess with it. I can't beat it. So AB, this happens. CB. Okay. I mean, now my position is perfect. I have a 3-on-1 here, and these are about to be passed pawns very, very soon. My opponent goes knight back. Okay, I just dropped my queen back to d3. Very nice square. I might go here now since the knight left. And now if like knight back here, I thought b5, and I'm just crushing. Like, I mean, it's just a fork. But, I mean, even if it wasn't a fork, which in all honesty, I didn't really see that it was, which is a little embarrassing. I mean, like even here, I can play like e4, for example, and my position is just better. My position is just better. Like rook, I don't know, rook c1. I don't know, this position is great. So instead of allowing that fork, my opponent goes knight c8. I'm very confused on how this can be the best move. I suppose it's just because it attacks this pawn, but the knight has 0 prospects. So I mean, like what is he gonna do? What is he gonna do? Like put the knight on b6 and just lose it in one move? No, he's not gonna do that. So I wonder what the plan is. I go queen b3, My opponent goes queen here, attacking the pawn. Okay, I play b4. I mean, past pawn should be pushed in the endgame. I'm gonna push up here, my knight here, rook here, everything's going. Maybe knight here in some lines, and I mean, I'm better. I'm winning. I'm basically winning. I have all these very strong pawns, and I'm just up a pawn. So I mean, the game's over. Well, it's not over, but I'm just much better position. Rook a5. I go rook fc1, of course, going for this move, my whole idea. My opponent goes knight here, and I make a big mistake. I go here. This is a mistake. What I should have done, I should have just slow played it and went like queen b4 first, keep playing slow. Maybe I'll go here in some lines, maybe I'll go here in some lines. I gotta keep playing slow, but instead I kind of rushed the deal and I played this move. And the reason why it doesn't work is actually, I actually saw the reason why it doesn't work. It doesn't work because after b6, my idea was knight e5, and I'm picking up the pawn. My opponent has a nice rook sacrifice after queen b7, and I saw this. I saw this, like, after rook c6, my opponent has this move rook b5, and, yeah, like, this position is slightly better for white, but I was +2. And it can get worse pretty fast, and I can easily win the game here, but still, I shouldn't be allowing this, and I shouldn't be allowing this degree of counterplay here in the endgame, and losing my pawn is just baffling. It's just a bad move, just terrible. But my opponent doesn't see it, and plays a remarkably bad move, queen d6. I mean, now rook b5 is now just no longer an option. I take, I hit the queen. That's why it's no longer an option. And yeah, I'm winning now. I'm just easily winning. My pawns have now advanced into passed pawns, which is very nice. My opponent goes queen b8 for some reason. Okay, I mean, what else are they supposed to do? I drop my rook back to c1. Simply put, I want to defend this rook, and I want to prevent any rook sacrifice on b5, which could in fact be a very big issue in the future. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen. I want to keep my advantage, and I want to win the game. Opponent goes rook here. I go rook up. Interesting idea. I want to go here and threaten this. Pretty simple, but it's an interesting idea nonetheless. Here, I bring my rook over here. I also want to guard this rook with this rook. I shouldn't have done that. I actually probably should have gone like queen b4 here and like tried to infiltrate or something, maybe even queen b1 sometimes. But yeah, rook ca1, I'm just defending. Nothing can be too wrong with this. Queen b4, the idea comes to prosper. Rook c4 is a move that I thought didn't work because of this move, and I thought I was infiltrating. And I mean, like, I'm threatening this, my queen's in the game. I mean, I thought I was doing really well. But at the very least, my opponent can go, like, rook a8 and, like, stop all my threats. Maybe I should have seen this. But, like, no, not there, actually. There would be losing my queen. I mean, it's a tough position. It's a tough position, nonetheless. Either way. Rook ca7 instead. He didn't find rook c4. Rook c4 would have been a good move. He doesn't find it. I go rook here. Now this rook is defended by my queen, so there's not really any sacrifices on this pawn. Very nice. My opponent goes here. Okay, infiltrate, rook c6. I mean, what can be too wrong about that? I'm hitting the queen. I'm getting my rook into the game. Everything is hunky-dory. I am winning the game. Queen back. I go rook here. Now, after like rook here, I have check here. Takes. If it takes, I take the rook, and if rook takes, I just simply take the rook. I am up queen. I'm winning. My opponent drops his king back. I go here anyway. This is always losing. Like, even if it wasn't like concretely losing like it is here, 2 rooks versus a queen would not work in this scenario. So instead, queen b6. I take. I mean, I want rook trades. The more trades I can get off the board, the better it will be for me, because his king is actually so far away that it doesn't really make a difference whose king gets there faster, because my pawn just promotes. My opponent comes back, rook back to c6. I'm just getting in with all my pieces. This is coming, like everything is coming. I'm going to trade everything here. I play this move, a5. I want to push my pawns. They haven't been pushed for a while, so I want to keep everything going up. My opponent plays a bad move, allowing a rook trade that I play in like 2 seconds because this is pretty beginner stuff. Takes, and then this is easily winning. 2 pawns, queen endgame. I'm gonna win here. I give this check. I don't really want any counterplay. I could have played a6. I mean, like, I don't see why I'd allow this. Like, he's obviously trying to go for some perpetual. Why would I even, like, pretend to care? Why would I even, like, allow any semblance of this? Like, he's threatening this. Threatening a perpetual. Actually, it's not a perpetual because of queen f1. But still, I don't want to allow any of that. So I simply come back, pick up the pawn. Now I'm up 2 pawns. My opponent comes here. I go queen a1. Really good move. Just completely controlling the back rank, and I want to push my pawns. My opponent comes here, and now simply a6. Queen b6, a7. He cannot stop my pawn from promotion. I have a +7 advantage on the eval. Here, I make a queen. Here, and I simply give this check and take this pawn, and my opponent resigns with a very nice game up to 2183, which is a wild rating. I've never been here. My previous peak was 2176, and well, we're gonna get into the next game where I managed to control the 2180, but it was a much less quality of a game. Still interesting though, still instructive. You should watch. Obviously, I would say that about all my games, but still, you should watch. C4, the English opening. I go e5. My opponent goes knight c3. I go knight f6. All this has been played before. I want to keep the control of the center. G3, G6. Bishop. I want to think out my bishop. It's just how I play the English, with like some weird thing like bishop G7 here, knight, bishop here, castle. This is just how I play the English. It can be played in many different ways. Bishop G2, bishop G7. My opponent goes E3. I go knight F6. Idea being, I might have this in like some interesting lines. Not right now, obviously, but I might have that in some interesting lines. I want to go here. I want to just block this diagonal. I want to do all this stuff. My opponent goes with this move E4. I castle. Knight here. Just preventing this in future plans. E6. Castles. And now I'm kind of out of the opening, kind of out of theory, and I immediately play a move that's not very good. I go bishop G5. Not a good move. The idea of this move is just I want to put my knight in the center, but it doesn't even work in the first place. Like, if, for example, if he does nothing here, knight d4, like at least this, right? And my knight's going to get captured on the next move, like here. Like, my knight's going to get captured on the next move, and I don't get the strong guy in the center that I wanted. So it wasn't really a well thought out move. But I do invoke this move h3. I draw my bishop back to d6. I thought it was natural. I thought this was a pretty good square for my bishop. Maybe I could have gone like to d7 or something, but I thought d6 made sense. I'm keep my rooks connected. I have this. I thought d7. I mean, like, what am I even looking at here? As long as d6, I might have some like tactics on the e pawn or something in the future. So d6. My opponent goes f4. Very aggressive. I take. Takes back with the pawn, which is kind of crazy. I mean, like, look at that, like, weak king, like, no pawns are defending him. I mean, like, this has to be, like, bad for him. I go knight h5. Simple idea. I want to now go knight d4. Now I want to go knight d4. If I can get off a good knight d4 here, I mean, my knight infiltrates, my bishop infiltrates, my queen infiltrates, everything infiltrates. This pawn falls in some lines, and I'm just doing quite well. f5. Bishop d7. I don't want to take. If I take on f5, I just lose. I just lose. Let's not even pretend like I don't lose. I'm completely lost here. My only advantage is that his king is open. I don't want to mess up my pawn structure. Like, even from a positional standpoint, I don't want to mess up my pawn structure. Bishop d7. My opponent comes in with the knight. I go knight d4, which is my big idea. I want to keep everything correct. I want to get this knight off, and I want to get my knight up here. Very normal stuff. My opponent goes here. Bishop h8 is terrible because I have to sack my queen. Let's just not do that. So we're not just going to do that. Here, big mistake. I'm winning. And I thought I was winning after very simple knight takes e2 check, and then I would take back the pawn. But that's not it at all. What I have to do here is just take on f6 with the knight and come back. But doesn't say goodnight. No, After here, I'm gonna get my piece back. I'm up a pawn. I'm just up a pawn now. And I thought the way I did it made lots of sense too. I would take the knight with check. As you can see, I get the double question mark. Queen takes. And I would take on f6. It's basically the same position, except the knights have been traded. But this allows bishop g5. Actually, I don't know what the difference is. If I take here, bishop g5, knight d5 takes, knight e3 fork, let's say queen d2, let's just follow the main line, knight takes f1, rook takes, knight e2 check, takes, and here, and I have 3 pieces for, I have a queen, oh my, I have a rook and a bishop for a queen, but I have I have a pawn extra. So the material is equal. Somehow black is just better here. Crazy stuff. That's an insane line. The 92 just loses though, because after takes, I don't have the 93 idea that I used to have, and I just take back on f6. Goes bishop g5. I take the knight because I had to think for a while. I thought for a minute here. I'm just trying to survive because, I mean, I know I'm lost. Like, I want to get as much material as I can here. I give this check. This is my idea. I'm attacking the rook. I'm attacking the bishop. I'm going to get an exchange or a bishop, and I might be able to make it out of this position with some chances to play for a draw or like a win or something. Probably not for a win. Probably for like a draw. Bishop here. I attack the bishop. Obviously, this is the best move. I don't really have to think too hard about that. Bishop here. I take the rook. Rook takes. And this is the position I'm left with. I know you kind of already saw what happened, but I did manage to win this game. Let's see how it happened. I have 2 bishops. My opponent also has the bishop pair. My opponent's king is weak. But more importantly, my opponent has a queen for a rook. So how am I supposed to do anything here? First of all, I go rook e6, which I thought was normal. The idea being, I might want to play f5 in the future. I might want to double up. Options are clear. I might want to go here. I just want to keep everything together. H6 is an option at some point, just like a deflection tactic. You never know. This pawn is weak. I have a lot of stuff going for me here, and I have to really try to make it work. My opponent comes back with the bishop. I don't want a bishop trade. I really don't want a bishop trade. Bishop pair is a good way to keep chances on the board. So bishop g7. My opponent comes here. Now he's threatening this move, and that move is kind of scary. So what I do here is very, very interesting. I realize that the move isn't actually that bad, and I play bishop c6. First of all, stopping like the potency of that move by a little, but really it invites a new idea, because after here, my idea is now to play this move f5, and the pawn is pinned to the king. Let's say if like king g1. Then I was thinking like rook a e8, and now the pawn is still pinned to the bishop. And let's say like rook here. Well, now, for example, the pawn is pinned. I can even play like rook e5 or something, and you still can't take because of the bishop f3 here. So I have some tricks. I have some very nice tricks here, which is why my opponent decides not to go bishop a6, bishop a3, I mean, h3, bishop h3, if I can get my notation correct, and instead goes queen f2, moving his queen out of the way, targeting my pawn here, and asking me, like, how are you going to defend that pawn? Are you going to be passive, or what are you going to do? I'm passive. I don't think there's any other way to defend it. Like, how else am I going to defend it? Like, am I going to play f5 now and, like, go for this line? I mean, I trade a bunch of pieces, and I get my pawn back. He can't take because the bishop is hanging. But really? Like, bishop d4, he trades more pieces. I want to keep chances alive. I don't want any of that to happen. So that's not a thing I can do. So rook f8 is pretty much the only move. My opponent comes here. And now I go f5 again. This is my idea. F5. I need to make chances on the board. King and G1. I go rook here. I keep the pawn pinned. This never works because here, and I get a draw at the very least, or I'm winning. Like it's a little tricky. Actually, this move is lost somehow. How is this move lost? Bishop d4. Attacking this, threatening this. The king can't really move. Like if the king moves here, I go bishop e5, check. King back, and like just rook d3, threatening this again. Okay, that's kind of nice. f5. My opponent goes king g1 here, and my opponent draws back with the bishop. Okay, you don't do anything. But the issue is that this doesn't stop my threat. The pawn is still pinned. Now this is a threat. Now I'm just threatening to fork him. And a fork is never good. He would lose a piece, and I might have some chances. So, first of all, I bring my rook back. I go rook 6e7. I don't want to be in this pin anymore. I'm getting out of the pin. He still can't take on f5, obviously. Really? What does he have here? This? What? f6? Takes? Rook takes f2? Oh, yeah, I guess so. Actually, I think I kind of calculated this, but not correctly. Yeah, not correctly. I didn't think he had anything there. Either way. He can't really take still. At least I thought he couldn't take. I guess he can. My opponent goes bishop c3 instead, offering to trade of bishops. And this one, I kind of have to accept. Like, if I go like bishop h6 or something, my bishop is off the file. And now he can just take on f. No, he can't take on f5 anymore. Oh, well, he can't take on f5 because of the bishop. But, I mean, like, actually, bishop takes f5 is the best move. So I guess he can't take on f5, but not with the right piece. Either way, I didn't think that I could really go off this diagonal and just let him have free reign over my king. So I thought I had to take. And I was right. It's the best move. Takes back. I take on f5, and I'm getting a pawn. I'm getting a pawn. My opponent, obviously, I would love a draw. Like, after takes here, I take my rook. Obviously, I would love a draw, like here, 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 draw. Like, super down for a draw. Like, absolutely down for a draw. I'm completely losing here after move h5, which would be kind of nice. Don't see that at all. Not at all. Not going to lie to you. Don't see that at all. But it's okay. Rook takes. My opponent goes queen f7 check. Mate is on the board, but it's a hard mate to find. My opponent comes back with the bishop. Not the best move. Keeping everything nice and orderly. I decide to go rook here. My rook is defended by my bishop. Now this bishop is being attacked. It's going to get spicy here in a minute. My opponent sacks his queen. Opponent sacrifices his queen because he's like, oh, okay, this is a winning endgame. I'm up a piece. Like, what is he supposed to? What is this buffoon 2180 supposed to do against me if I'm up a piece? But apparently there's a lot I can do. My opponent takes the bishop. Okay, I'm not going to fault that move. Very normal move. I take the pawn. I'm defending my pawn against this move. My opponent comes here, defending the pawn. Very passive. Not a good move. I still can't take this because this would be hanging. What I should do here is I go king f6. Now this isn't a thing anymore. He can take on b7, but then I take on h4. I got two passers. And actually, if anything, it's kind of black threatening to win here. I feel like white doesn't really have any chances in this position, so white has to probably make a draw, which they can probably do. Instead, I go b6. Again, very normal move. Very normal move. I'm just pushing my pawn one square. I don't want the bishop to take it. I don't want anything like that. Actually, one of the moves here at lower level, a lower depth Stockfish said that b5 was the best move. Which is a very nice move. Simply like stopping this move here after bishop attacks my rook, which you will see in a second. After b6, he goes here, here, here. This is his idea. And if I played b5 immediately, then he wouldn't be able to do this because I would just be picking up the pawn, and I would be actually probably winning. Instead, in this position, I mess up. I'm actually better here. Minus 0.4. Minus 0.4 if I find b5 now. If I find b5 now, minus 0.4, that would be a very bad mistake. Like rook e7, king f6. I shouldn't go here because this, and I'm actually in a decent bit of trouble. Rook f7, king f6, and like he can't take this pawn because of this, and I get these passers, these 3 passed pawns. Not really 3 passed pawns, it's more like 2 passed pawns and like a half of a passed pawn. But still, it's very, very strong. And instead of doing that, instead of finding b5, I don't find it, I go a5, because I'm like, okay, well, I mean, he's starting to go here, I want to go for this move, but I don't want my pawn to be hanging, I don't want, let's go a5, let's be cautious, let's be careful, let's go some positional play, let's keep everything together. I just hit my mic a little bit, I'm not sure if you heard that. My opponent gives me this check, and I go here, because I'm defending my pawn, but I just completely missed bishop g8. I completely missed bishop g8, and he finds it pretty quickly. If I went to h8, which would be like the best move, he doesn't have bishop g8 now, but like after something like bishop e6 or something, I mean, my king is boxed in. I don't want to allow that. I feel like that could be a big issue in some point, so I just don't want anything like that to happen. So I went king h6, just completely missing bishop g8, and it's the best move, of course. Well, it's not the best move, Engin's do something better, but Engine is a scumbag, and we all know that. I go king up. I don't want to get mated. If I like go anywhere else, I get mated, like this move, simply checkmate. So king up, takes, king up. My opponent brings his king up. Okay, sure. I'm still trying to make something happen here. I want to keep the game like interesting, keep everything together. So I go this move b5, move I told you about. Now after here, I mean, I honestly, I don't really know what I planned. Honestly, I don't really know what I planned. Maybe I wanted to give like this check or something, but b5, interesting move. My opponent gives me this check on e6. I move my king here, of course. I mean, like, where else am I gonna put my king? My opponent takes on b5. I take on b5, and my opponent takes on c7. Of course. Now I go check. And my idea here kind of consists of me wanting to pick up the h5 pawn. It's kind of my idea. Is 3-2 with my opponent being up a bishop. So it's probably lost for black. But if I get into an endgame where all the pawns are traded, then it is a draw. Then that would be a theoretical draw, and I have to keep that going. My opponent comes back with his king. Not a good move. Not a good move. You probably should have played king h3 because this check doesn't work. Bishop and pawn guard. And I would have gone like rook d2 or something, rook e2 or something. And I mean, it's still interesting, still a game, but I'm simply losing. Instead, my opponent comes back. I come here, hitting the bishop first, bring my king into the game, which he kind of needs to be. Central squares are normally good for pieces, so I like putting my pieces on central squares. Comes back, attacks my pawn. I come here, and now he can't bring his rook to defend this pawn. He can't like defend this pawn at all. If he goes for this move, I could probably go here. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't go there. Maybe I go like here or something. Either way, he decides to trade pawns. Okay, great. One pawn off. He only has one pawn left, and it said corner pawn. Unfortunately, it is the right color corner. For example, if the pawn was on a dark squared corner, then light squared bishop wouldn't be able to defend it, and it's probably a draw. But it's on the light squared corner, so not good for me. Bishop c2. Good move. Preventing rook h4. Very, very smart move. I go rook here instead. Idea being I want to defend my pawn against this. Great. Opponent comes here. I bring my king up. Opponent comes here. My opponent has 25 seconds on the clock. You might have noticed. I think you know where this is going. King moves. My opponent brings his king up. I give this check. I give a couple of checks. I kind of threaten to repeat moves. I'm not going to repeat moves now because my opponent has 17 seconds on the clock versus a minute. I kind of want to win this game now. Now I just got to keep everything together for a couple more moves. Rook h5, king moves, check, back. My opponent comes here with his rook. Okay, great. I ran rook here. I want to defend this pawn and this pawn with my rook. It's kind of my idea. Check, king back, check. This move, not a good move because it allows this check. I should have just gone like, I don't know, king c7 or something, and just vibed, just completely relaxed here. But instead, e4, I mean, it's completely normal. My opponent has 7 seconds on the clock. What is he going to do against here? Check. Comes back with the bishop. I come here. He comes here. I come here. He comes here. He's gonna pick up my pawn, but my opponent has literally no time on the clock, 0.1 seconds, and my opponent flags. And this is how I won the game. And this is how I got up to 2180. 2180. 20 points away from 2200, which is a big goal of mine, and only 220 points away from 2400. So that's it for you. That's it that I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found this entertaining, instructive, all of the above. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, normal things YouTubers tell you to do. And yeah, good evening and good night.